Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is thank you, Frank. This is John Campion with the MCBE Wednesday night show, Martin County Business Exchange, and I am always so lucky to have as our co-host, world famous Frank Mezzapel.
Or as Lee Carroll likes to refer to me as Big Frank.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of new friends, don't you, Frank?
So what happened was Todd Harris, who has the Monday evening show now, Crown Car Care Talk, right? He's picked up the moniker now of Big Frank. So we're having some fun with that,
Well, Frank towers at about
5'6",
just a sconce under 6'7".
Right.
Like about 2 feet below that.
I tell you what, I got a nosebleed. I put on my spikes this morning I put on my baseball uniform and, spikes included. So I increased my elevation.
Now, those are not metal spikes.
No,
correct?
God, no.
I was going to say those wouldn't work too good on the parquet floor over at the Elks Club.
I still have my original set of spikes from when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
They still fit?
Unless
they might fall apart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, likely.
Unless you have them hermetically sealed in a soundproof.
Right.
You know what things do in closets or boxes around here. Yeah, Frank was our guest speaker today. So you are blessed with just Frank and
just
myself.
The two of us, yeah.
Normally we would have
a third person.
Yeah.
Like Three's Company.
Sometimes we can be like 3 people. And actually, we're so funny. We just need 2 today.
That's it.
We hope everybody's listening. And Frank, I'd like you to you got a few things you wanted to do here.
I do. I'm going to kick off the show with our buddy Ernie Harwell, right? Who is a longtime announcer for the Detroit Tigers.
Like forever.
Yeah. And I grew up listening to him.
Me too.
Right? Yeah. You and me both. So here we go. So Ernie's going to give us a couple of minutes on the game of For All America, a definition of baseball, according to Ernie Harwell. All right, here we go. When the computer wants to go.
Oh, Harry Carey.
Here it goes.
Baseball is a president tossing out the first ball of the season and a pudgy schoolboy playing catch with his dad on a Mississippi farm. A tall, thin old man waving a scorecard from the corner of his dugout. That's baseball. So is a big fat guy with a bulbous nose running home one of his 714 home runs. There's a man in Mobile who remembers that Honus Wagner hit a triple in Pittsburgh 46 years ago. That's baseball. And so is a scout reporting that a 16-year-old Sandlot pitcher in Cheyenne is a coming Walter Johnson. Baseball is a spirited race of man against man, reflex against reflex, of game of inches. Every skill is measured, every heroic, every failing, seen and cheered or booed, and then becomes a statistic. In baseball, democracy shines its clearest. The only race that matters is a race of the bag. The creed is a rule book, and color, merely something to distinguish one team's uniform from another. Baseball is a rookie, his experience no bigger than the lump in his throat as he begins fulfillment of his dream. It's a veteran, too. A tired old man of 35, hoping those aching muscles can pull him through another sweltering August and September. Nicknames of baseball, names like Zeke and Pie and Kai and Home Run and Cracker and Dizzy and Dazzy. Baseball is the clear, cool eyes of Rogers Hornsby, the flashing spikes of a Ty Cobb, and an overaged pixie named Rabbit Moranville. Baseball, just a game, as simple as a ball and bat, and yet as complex as the American spirit it symbolizes. It's a sport, a business, sometimes almost even religion. Why, the fairy tale of Willie Mays making a brilliant World Series catch and then dashing off to play stickball in the streets with his teenage pals. That's baseball. And so is the husky voice of a doomed Lou Gehrig saying, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of this earth. Baseball is cigar smoke, hot roasted peanuts, ladies' day down in front, take me out to the ball game, the 7th inning stretch, and the Star-Spangled Banner. Baseball is a man named Campanella telling the nation's business leaders, You have to be a man to be a big leaguer. But you have to have a lot of little boy in you, too. This is a game for America, this baseball. A game for boys and for men.
How cool is that?
You know, excuse me. The cool thing about Ernie, doesn't his voice remind you a lot of Paul Harvey?
Yeah, it's certain cadence.
With that, yeah. But so Ernie was the announcer for from like 1960.
It was definitely somewhere in the 60s. That's when I really became an avid.
And he passed away about what, 2 years ago?
Just a few years ago. Yeah. He was at the fantasy camp. He was at now. Think about all the years he spent.
Frank was at a baseball fantasy camp. I want to make sure that everybody's
Yes.
clear on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
That's right. Yeah. And with all the things that he could be doing with his life and his time with his wife, right? Miss Lulu, his wife. He could be doing anything, going anywhere, but he couldn't think of a better place to be than Lakeland, Florida, for spring training and hang out with the former Tigers and the fantasy campers. And he would be available for photographs, for, just a visit. And, what a great guy.
Now, you went to fantasy camp a few times.
3 consecutive years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're still that 35-year-old man hoping you can pull your way through spring training. And,
Well, one of the folks asked me this morning, I forget who it was, what position did I play? And my immediate retort was left out. But
not you, Frank.
But I played a little bit of outfield, right field. I played second base. They tried to put me wherever they were pretty sure the ball wasn't going to go.
Not you, Frank.
And I played a little bit of pitcher.
Now, but did you play like Little League and stuff?
Yeah,
of course you did.
Yeah,
Because
how
many kids did you have in your neighborhood and the Little Leagues?
Oh yeah, when I wasn't playing Little League, I was playing stickball and sandlot ball and all
neighborhoods.
That. Sure,
we did all the same stuff. So not to date you because you are a little bit. I'm a little younger than you.
Not
but these were what years do you? I mean, what's your one of your favorite memories from all that
favorite
stuff?
memory was I was about 15, 16 years old, and I was trying out for what they called F League. I don't know if you remember how they rated the leagues, but it was after F League was E League, and then after that there was like the semi-pros. You get drafted into the minors, if you're good enough.
Right.
But E League was like the last of the alphabetical leagues. And so I was trying out for F League, and they weren't too sure they would want me to play because you had to try out for the team. You couldn't just show up and pay a fee and play. No.
So they've got X amount of kids trying out for 10 teams,
whatever
18,
the positions are. Yeah.
Right.
So, anyways, I said, the guy said, well, we could use a pitcher. I said, okay, I kind of can pitch. So he says, I don't think we can use you. I said, I tell you what, if you put up your best batter, your biggest hitter, right? And if I strike him out, can I play on your team? He said, well, yeah. So, what the trick is now, I cannot overpower a big guy like you. There's no way. I'm serious, right? I'm not going to throw that hard. I'm just not going to blow it by you.
Right.
I'm going to let you hit the ball. The trick is for you to hit it where I want you to hit it, or to try to put the baseball where you can't find it, right?
Okay.
So you had to use just a little bit of.
So he had a full field out there for you. Is that correct? If he hit it, or was it just a matter of if he
yeah, I mean, my goal was to strike him out, and
but they had a player at each position.
Okay,
sure, cool.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. So I ended up striking him out, but
Sweet.
So it was for me, that was like,
that's cool.
You feel like whether and I he still wouldn't let me play because he's really not too sure. But for me, that was it, because I took their best batter, and I did it not because I overpowered him, was bigger or better or anything like that. I just figured out where to put the baseball where he couldn't hit it. And
That's great.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's
that
great.
was fun.
Yeah, I think I played baseball from 4th grade
Right.
through baseball, of course, through high school.
Yeah.
Then I got into softball after that, which I couldn't hit the softball
That is
because
so hard.
of the way they arc it and all that
Yeah.
crap. I had a golf, I was a golfer, so I had the golf swing. So man, I could hit some pop-ups and long high fly balls. But anyway,
So what did you play? What positions?
I played all of them.
Yeah, all of
I
first
did.
base.
I did. I played first base was my gem.
Yeah.
I was elected to in my career, but this was in when we lived in a suburb of Chicago.
Right.
I think I was in the major league, which was the cool league.
Wow.
And I played first base, and I got my teammates. Your teammates would elect the player, and they elected me because of my D at first. And that was really cool. And then my dad says, "Oh, well, you can't play in the game because we're going to Canada to go walleye fishing." And I go, "What?" So I had to go do that and didn't get to play. But I played, through junior high school. I played a lot of baseball. And
did you play any in college?
No, I didn't. But I will tell you, I determined later, and this is just a few years ago, that, I'm 61 now, but, live in the fantasy world. But I determined that I was a better baseball player than golf or basketball, which are my other two games. So, I had some.
But you were really an athlete.
Yeah, well, but I worked hard because I wasn't the most talented kid, but the thing
it's not about talent.
Well, it was about what you could do. And, when we'd be outside playing during the summer, you go out at 9 a.m. and you hook up with your friends and you might come home at lunch, but you may not come home till 5.
Right.
You've been playing baseball or something all day. And that's how I learned how to play.
Right.
And very cool. And I think the biggest thing that happened to me is we used to play some different neighborhoods, kind of like not stickball, but hardball. And we went over to this other neighborhood, and I was probably like maybe in fifth grade, 6th grade. And I was on the team. And I remember we're playing against guys who were 8th grade, 9th grade. And I remember hitting a home run. We don't have the fence there, but it was so cool to connect and do that. And go, wow, I'm a threat now. But
listen, it was for me. Never hit a home run, but for me to send the right fielder or the left fielder or the center fielder running to try to chase down one of my fly balls, to me that was okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was okay with that.
Are you bat left-handed or right?
Right-handed.
Okay.
Yeah,
right-handed.
throw right,
okay.
bat right. Yeah,
right.
But I was experimenting with trying to hit left-handed.
Sure.
Because it gives you an extra step towards first base.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I did that a couple different years, once in Little League and then a couple times in high school. But it's not easy if you're not a natural with that.
I liked getting on base. I didn't care how I got on base. If it was a hits batter,
right.
A base on balls. Sometimes I would just get a scratch hit,
Right.
And once I got on first, the next thing the rest of the infield knew I'm standing on second. I would steal second just as quick as I could.
Speedy Frank. You had some wheels
back then. Well, when I was in Little League, so I'm thinking now I'm playing fantasy camp baseball with all these other adults, and I'm thinking I still can run like those kids, right? No, so I said I got thrown out at second, and I said to the guy, "What happened?" When I came back to the dugout, and they go, "Man, I don't know." He says, "Your legs were moving, but you weren't."
Well, that is really funny because what my nickname was in high school? They called me slow motion.
Yeah.
They said they'd never seen anybody leg out a double, and it took so long as me. Normal guy'd be at third or maybe in the park. I'd hit the long one out there, and I'd just running in place, baby. So I attribute that one to Randy Reimel in Spring Lake, Michigan. Hey, I got to do 2 quick shout outs.
All right, let's do it.
Real
sure.
quick. We'll get back to your cool stuff. Lynn, hey, hi. And Ryan's one of our I'm not going to say their last names, but Ryan's runs a nice business down Monterey from us. And,
excellent.
And he sells pavers, so you guys can figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Great family man and good customer and quality guy. So that's it. And Lynn's she's one of our new employees who's kicking butt. I told her I'd She said she'd
Aw.
listen to me, and I said, "Oh, what we up to? What 38 now?" Or
No. I think Lee stopped counting after 54.
sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
And Greg Wyatt was at the meeting this morning.
Oh, great.
And he said because of our internet presence, he said our numbers are more like 1,900.
Nice.
So
Okay.
it's
Well, then I guess I
huge.
do have to watch what I say,
Yeah.
Frank.
It's amazing how that internet presence now has
Well, that's
changed our whole
yeah,
dynamic.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's the internet got me going, bro.
Yeah.
So let's step back a minute here
Sure.
to you from when you were in Detroit, and then you left Detroit and you moved to California.
I went to work in California in the late 70s, and worked in for a little bit. I had a stint in Sacramento,
Okay.
and then after a few weeks in Sacramento, they found a home for me in Fresno, and so I worked in the Fresno store. And my initial work there was it was a paint company owned store.
Okay.
And the Fresno store was a big store because they serviced a lot of the surrounding communities, right? And then we had an Air Force base and a lot of big customers. So that was an interesting job. Now my job working in that store, I was in charge of all the sundries, right? That's the brushes, the rollers, anything other than paint cans.
Okay.
That was me, right?
Okay.
So we had a $35,000 sundry inventory that I was in charge of. That means I had to order all this stuff I had to write it up on Saturday for delivery on Thursday the following week. Had to kind of
Not like you could enter it in a computer.
oh
right?
God, no. This is all on a big old chart. So you learn to memorize SKUs by the hundreds.
Isn't that funny?
And that we would rotate that inventory weekly. I don't know if you could imagine it. And $35,000.
You're turning a $35,000,
which is closer to about $100,000 in today's money.
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Wow, that's
probably.
big.
Yeah. And so that was a lot of inventory to keep track of. And
Was that over? I mean, so you really cut your teeth pretty good at this place.
yeah, because what you learn and what you do in 6 months' time would represent like years worth of experience for a small retailer, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did that stint out there.
I did that for about a year and a half. So I was supposed to be there only 6 months, and that was basically for training.
Yep.
And then I was supposed to be an outside sales rep. Well, in the late 70s, the economy was kind of taking a little bit of a downturn.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of expanding territories, they were retracting territories. They couldn't find a slot for me, but they wanted me to continue working. Well, I couldn't make the numbers work because what I had hired on, what I left Detroit for, was to be an outside sales rep. An outside sales rep, you get a company car, you get a percentage of everything you sell, and you get your salary.
Was the cost of living that much different out there at the time? I mean,
it wasn't too bad,
Detroit, Fresno, Detroit.
Yeah, it was
Fresno.
probably a push, but I wasn't on a growth curve like I should have been with the job that I'd hired out to do, right? But they liked me in the store because I had the in-store retail experience from my dad's shop.
Sure.
And they didn't want to lose that inside sales.
That took all the fun out of what you wanted to do,
Yeah,
sort of.
So I left them and I ended up in South Lake Tahoe working for an independent, kind of like my dad's shop.
Yeah.
But my territory was the hotel and motel accounts, and which was about 300 accounts, and I kept a 3x5 file card on all the accounts, and I'd make little notes, and that's where I really learned about how to pay attention to people's interests, customers that you call on if they're interested in fishing or hunting or
you kept all those notes
race
in
cars.
there.
Yeah, and then you could
good.
be conversing about whatever it is that was their interest button,
right?
And so that was kind of cool.
Move.
Yeah.
Did you learn that in college?
No.
Okay.
No.
So then you were
my dad. I learned that from my dad.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's some of their great
just
teachers.
skills. When I was 16, he had me calling on the local hospital in Detroit called St. John's Hospital. We used to have a store in downtown Detroit, and he had several accounts that he let go because you couldn't service them. We moved too far away in the
Moved
servicing.
the store up to
Right. We moved more into the suburbs, too far away. But the one store that wasn't too far away was it was near Grosse Pointe. It was called St. John's Hospital.
Okay.
And so my dad says, yeah, you can call on that. And I knew how to drive. So it's like, okay. So I learned how to make professional calls. And I was like, so scared, right? And walking through a hospital is, you don't walk on the regular floors. You're working in the basement and, and you have to know what you're doing, right? And so my dad gave me this clipboard. He says, this is what you do, so nobody will stop you.
Put your white jacket on.
Right? No, but yeah, right. He says,
Dr.
carry this.
Mezapel.
Yeah, right. The doctor is in the house.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's great.
So, but I would carry the clipboard and pretend like I knew it was what I was doing, and then I would find my way to wherever it was, the office that I was looking for.
It's smart.
And it was great, and they were very welcoming, and they were very, very kind to me, and it was just fun, learning the commercial trade part of the business.
Sure. So were you in with a lot of, competition, I guess, right?
Well, a lot of there was a local paint store that was part of my dad's business group that could have easily have called on them, but that was our account, so they didn't bother.
That's good.
Yeah.
Great.
It was back in those days, back in the 60s, early 70s, it was more collegial, I guess,
Sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So then after Tahoe, you
moved back to Michigan.
and keep up with you, Frank.
Yeah, I know. Well, all the time I lived and worked in Fresno, didn't see my folks, right? Unless I came back to Detroit on my own. So I'm just a few weeks into Lake Tahoe. My dad and my mom fly out into Reno, which is just over the mountain pass, and you're in Reno. And so he says, come on, spend the weekend with us. So
we have bags full of quarters.
right. So my dad made me a business offer to move back to Detroit and to take over the family business.
That's cool. They came out. That's cool. They came out and did that.
Yeah.
I had intervention with my dad and brother one time. Not intervention, but I had a hard time with my first job out of college. I moved from Kalamazoo, Michigan to Charlotte. And, people laugh when I say, oh, yeah, I moved to Charlotte in 79. They just got liquor by the drink. But having grown up in the Midwest and, Michigan, I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
Okay.
I could,
Oh, my goodness.
But
right.
But it worked. Are we going to take a break?
We are indeed.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. No, how good of you to notice. Yes, that was good.
Well, you didn't even break the pencil in front of me like you normally do to get me out of my trance. We're going to take a break. The Martin County Business Exchange Wednesday night show for John Campion and Frank, the co-host and the guest, and I'm the co-host, but he's the guest and the co-host. So Frank wins. We'll be right back.
All right. Today's Southeast AgNet Report, brought to you by Everglades Farm Equipment, a family-owned business for the past 50 years with 10 Florida locations, including Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Loxahatchee. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A man who will always be around and who will need her just as much as she needs him.
The plan.
For the uninitiated, that's the intro for Fantasy Island.
Well, you know what I thought that was at first?
What's that?
I thought it was the man with the golden gun.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was watching that a few
right.
weeks ago with Tattoo, and then the other guy wasn't Ricardo Montalban, but
Right.
it's another one of those guys.
Right.
And the funniest thing in there, I've been telling people, is they get away from Bond and whoever the I can't remember who the girl was, but they were in a Matador, and it came out and it got wings and it took off and flew like a plane.
Yeah.
You know, a Matador, and then it had like a real jet noise while it was flying, and I'm going, unbelievable. So I laughed so hard.
Oh yeah, James Bond stuff is always great.
But Fantasy Island.
So the reason why the Fantasy Island,
Yes.
because during Fantasy Camp Baseball, Willie Horton, who is the famous outfielder for the Tigers, for the 68 Tigers, he's a local Detroit boy too, by the way. And so he's an interesting individual. I've got his book. He wrote a wonderful book.
You're about as big as his left arm, aren't you?
Yes. Big guy. Just a real sweetheart. Nice guy. And Al Kaline wrote the forward to his book.
Nice.
So, yeah. And anyways, so they came to, when they were thinking about the Fantasy Camp Baseball, this is when this TV show was on the air.
Okay.
So they approached Willie and they says, we're thinking about doing Fantasy Camp. And he says, well, I'm not too sure about that. If I can participate in that. And they go, well, why, Willie? He says, well, I don't like planes. And he's, the whole idea of being on an island with an airplane.
It is the plane.
The plane. This, no, that's baseball. It's just
funny.
baseball.
That's great.
But he actually tells this story, and it's just delightful.
Well, we've talked before about all those great guys, Kaline and Mickey Lolich and Denny McLean and
John Hiller. Remember
John
him?
Hiller. Oh my God. Didn't he have a heart attack? And
He did.
Came back
He
from a
came
heart
back.
attack?
He was one of the very few baseball players ever to have done that. And in fact, they had not too many days ago, maybe a week or so back, the Tigers and the Cardinals had a rematch.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
Yeah. Okay.
And the current day Detroit Tigers honored the 68 Tigers.
Wow.
That came there, and they wore all the throwback jerseys from 68.
Neat.
So and to make sauce for the goose, the Tigers won. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because when I was in 68, when I lived in a suburb of Chicago, I always tell everybody I lived in Chicago, and the last time I went to a Cubs game, Ernie Banks was playing first.
Wow.
But I went to a Catholic school, and the nuns back then we had black and white TVs had been put in the rooms, and all those nuns wanted to watch the Cardinals. So we got to watch. We got to watch they were afternoon games then.
That's right, they were.
And it was great. It was great.
Oh.
So we didn't even have class.
I was senior year of high school. Pretty sure it was senior year, and no, I was not my senior year, but it was in high school anyways. And what they were doing is they were the AV people would wheel these TV sets
And on the cart.
Yeah, on the carts, and so we could watch the game because it was a big to do.
Hey, we were sophisticated. Ours were up on mounts up in the corner. Yeah, it was great.
No,
it was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
that the world for all the folks that lived in and around the Detroit area, the world stopped for us during that series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and when you're growing up in that age, the kids today, you just can't translate it because for me, the neighborhood we moved in when I was in about second or third grade, I didn't know anything about any sport, and we had like 54 kids on our block with 20 homes, and we always had something going on outside, and that's where I learned hockey, baseball, you name it. It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I remember those things like yesterday, and that's why I say, what are some of your favorite, so you can't, it's tough to translate.
Yeah, it is. But
and I never liked video games. I don't play video.
No.
I've never even really, my kids, I just don't.
I don't have a good reaction time to it's like
I get
my son tried to show me and I go,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
My sons think I come from another planet.
Yeah.
Well, which I do, but I was hoping they wouldn't catch on.
Planet
so soon.
Dad.
Yeah, that's right. Grandpa too.
Yeah, congratulations,
you.
by the way.
Yeah,
we haven't been on the air since
I-
so how old is your
she
granddaughter?
is almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks. now.
Dahlia,
Dahlia.
Dalia, and she's
Beautiful name.
She's healthy. Of course, the cutest baby out there.
Of course, yes.
Probably cuter than Wayne Sloat's new grandson, grandson.
So it's a possibility he's going to want to introduce his grandson to your granddaughter one day. Huh?
Oh boy,
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Uh-oh.
No,
Ruh-roh.
between him and Lloyd Rogers wanting to do the same thing with his,
Right.
but
No.
it's all good. No,
Yeah.
it's what a wonderment,
Yeah.
No, so anyways, everybody's doing great, and my wife Dee Dee is,
Oh, yeah.
she just came back last night from up there.
Uh-huh.
Matter of fact, she was supposed to go to the Dolphins game with me on Sunday.
So yeah, we've got a couple of minutes before. We got about 5 minutes.
Oh,
Let's
we got
talk about-
7 hours to talk about.
Okay.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
I don't. It was the worst experience. I'm sure anybody out there listening, you know what I'm talking
One
about.
of the longest games in football history.
Yeah,
right?
and it was in
Yeah.
the modern since the two merged.
Yeah.
And somebody told me, I didn't realize this because we left long before that they you weren't allowed to tailgate afterwards. They closed the place and made everybody leave. So you had
It's because of the lightning concerns.
no,
or
just because
time,
it was time.
time constraints.
Yeah, you've been here partying in our
All right.
backyard since 8 this morning. But it was the first half with 1 minute left, and they got the lightning. And I got to tell you, there was hardly any rain, and I never saw any lightning. And so that was a 2-hour.
So they have
delay.
like the Thor device that we use
right
for
out
high
in
school
the
sports.
fields.
Yeah.
Yep, golf, all that, and then it's a new protocol because that happened, opening night with the Falcons and Eagles.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that.
Mhm.
But this was 2 hours. Then when they finally resumed, they had they finished the first half, had a 3-minute 38-second halftime because they'd all been in the locker room for 2 hours.
Right.
And then they started, and like the first set of downs, the Dolphins are going down the score, throw a ball into the end zone, and the Titans intercepted it, ran it back to the 50, and then the next delay, 2 more hours.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah. So, if you spend 4 or 5 hours getting in line to get a cocktail, a beer, you're waiting, and you just, anyways, y'all didn't miss anything.
Wow. What was the final score?
27-20 Dolphins.
All
And we lost. Titans lost a couple players. And then, I was one of 7 people down there in a Titans jersey. I grew up in Titanville when they moved to town. So
All right.
anyways, but I was pulling for the Lions the other night.
Yeah.
My philosophy of don't bet the Jets. I was saying it myself the other day. Who would have thunk?
Yeah.
So anyways, it's crazy, the NFL, and most people have written them off anyways. And that's okay if you have, I mean, thank God for college football.
Right. So the TV version of what people watch on NFL games is a little bit different in the beginning of the game than what you see down in the stands.
Yep.
So what happens when they do they still play the national anthem?
They played everything.
Yeah.
The game started.
No, yeah, but I mean, did they play the national anthem?
Yes.
But that's not televised anymore.
It's not, because
Yeah.
I was singing really loud so everybody could hear me. I did, man. I was into it.
Good for you.
And when those F-14s or whatever fly over, it
Yeah.
always knocks a tear down my eyes.
Yeah.
But it was. There were so many people there, Frank, at the beginning,
Yeah.
tailgating and everything. I think most of them stayed out and tailgated because the stands weren't full, and it's Miami, so in a normal game by the third quarter, Miami-Dade's finest are out arresting everybody and throwing them in the brig for being dog-faced. But anyways, it's not fun. You have to really, anyways. But Dolphin fans out there, good luck this year, and I always try to watch them.
Jacksonville, I mean, everybody's expecting a good season from them this year,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. And Tampa won too, didn't they?
I think
I think
so.
they did. So anyways, yeah. So, Frank,
Sir.
you are you and Tiffany.
Yes.
This is his significant other.
Correct.
You're having a great time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I'm happy for both of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I mean, I guess you guys are. She doesn't have any relatives or anybody up in North Carolinas or anything, does she?
She doesn't. She doesn't. I do. My daughter's up there.
Oh,
in West Virginia.
Oh, that's right.
So she's going to get some of that sloppy weather. So we're a little worried about that. But I just spoke to her before airtime, and she seems to, be okay. And getting all her prep together, and so they just moved into a house, so they're just still unpacking and getting things organized. So it's like, sure, we'll just do this now too.
yeah, right. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Before I moved to Florida 15 years ago, my mom and dad used to always brag, "Oh, we haven't had a hurricane in 25 years." Well, I think back to the ones that I got stuck in up in Virginia and North Carolina. I was at my sister's one time in Knoxville, trying to get home on a Saturday to Richmond.
Okay.
And US Air called me at 4 a.m. to say, okay, here's the deal. You can either go through Cincinnati or Charlotte. Now, this is Hugo.
Oh, yeah. Hugo.
I was like, oh, Charlotte. Okay, that'll be good. So we land in Charlotte. It's beautiful. And you see all the trees and houses knocked over. And I'm going, And then we got in there. And I got in there about 10 a.m. and I left at midnight. Wow. You should have rented a car. Well, we thought of that. And they kept telling us they had a plane. And the coolest thing about this flight, Frank, it was all the guys from the World Wrestling back here. This is an 89.
Right.
Ric Flair and all those guys.
They're all in the plane.
They're in the flight to Richmond.
Wow.
And so they're up there sticking their fingers in the face of the the people behind the counter. And I'm up there right behind Ric Flair going, yeah. So,
That's great.
Gosh.
Too funny.
One more.
That's it. One more.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
I didn't want to make that about me. Sorry,
No,
Frank.
it's
Okay,
all right.
we're going to take
That was a delightful story.
We're going to take another quick break. True story, too. You can see my nose isn't growing. We're going to take another break for the MCBE show for the Martin County Business Exchange. Maybe we'll talk about that for a minute. But thank you for listening. We'll be right back. Frank and John.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Oh, get him, Tiger. Row. We're all behind our baseball team. Go get him, Tiger.
Is that cool or what? Yeah, I love it.
So are they still singing that? Is it still the theme song? Do you know?
I don't know. probably if they're doing any retro or throwback
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That's
I
probably all
imagine.
retro stuff. That's my world.
Well,
That's all right.
Yeah, so let's see. The Tigers, they kind of didn't have a great year.
They took the pipe this year.
Yeah,
So,
that's too bad.
yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, it's talk about upside down numbers. They're
it's
wow.
crazy.
But yet they're now that none of the games count, they're winning like crazy.
There
You
Took
know,
the pressure off.
yeah. I mean, they played real well. I guess.
So are you
pretty tough? I mean, they played the Yankees, and they played the Yankees pretty tough.
Now they're right there.
Yeah, and the Yankees are duking it out. I mean,
With-
it looks like the Yankees will probably get a
Wild card.
now for the AL East. So and the Red Sox, I think they clinched. So
they were beyond belief this year.
Yeah. 84 Tigers. I got a chance to hang out with some of those folks, right? At
Nice.
Fantasy Camp Baseball, Frank Tanana and the whole just wow. And they were amazing people. Dave Bergman, he was the first baseman for the Tigers, right? And he was just an amazing individual. He is, you got to Google this. He is, I think, holds a record for, he fouled off 13 balls. I don't know if you can imagine it. One at bat.
That's a lot.
13 before he put one in the seats.
Cool. Usually after that, they get him on that 14th one.
Right.
You know?
And that was,
wow.
It was against the, what was it? It was an AL East team. It was
Baltimore?
No, it was the Canadian team. The
Blue Jays.
Blue Jays, yeah, Toronto Blue Jays. And so yeah, we were playing the Blue Jays, and it's just and it was just watching all these foul balls, and it's amazing to watch. And
That's really
finally,
cool.
and he was an amazing guy, and he had a chance to talk. He was, as they were putting the club together, 83, they had a pretty good season,
Trammell was there then, right?
Trammell, Whitaker, and all that.
Guys.
And so Dave Bergman gets on the roster, and he reaches out to some of his buddies. He says, "Listen, something magical is about to happen here. This is an amazing club." And by the time they reached the end of May, now baseball starts in April, right? Tigers pretty much had the pennant clinched already. I mean, they had to change the rules after 84.
That's when that's the year that I proposed to Dee Dee watching a Tigers game at my parents' house in May. And I pulled the ring out from my my robe. We'd been to a friend's wedding, and that's pretty funny watching. And they were playing the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
and it was late. We're up in. Anyways, that was pretty cool. That's why I was sitting there going, "Wait a minute, 84," because we got married in 85.
Could have been that game. Could have been that series. You never know.
It might have been. Did you say May? This was May. This was May. This was May. Like 4. They got married.
Well, we'll have to watch that. We'll have to watch the game
that.
and then see if they actually give the date.
All I have to do is go back and see what day my buddy Jeff got married, and that's the night we did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not making this stuff up, people. This is true stuff.
Well, talk about an amazing coincidence. So Greg tells the story that he was in the broadcast booth with Ernie Harwell, and they were broadcasting the Tigers game in Los Angeles when the Tigers were playing the Angels, right? I think so. And it was, of course, a night game, right? And the last 2 innings, Ernie Harwell had to leave because he had another obligation, and because they were playing a doubleheader, and that's back when they actually played 2 games back to back, right? And Greg Wyatt was like 18 years old, and they just announced him as the kid, and he called the last couple innings of that game, and I heard that game. I'm my little transistor radio, got the little ear phones in, and I listened, and I go, that guy's voice is like Ernie's, but not really. It's just different enough. Of course, everybody's voice sounds kind of quirky and with those
on the
little
radio, yeah.
those transistor
Right,
earphones,
right.
you know,
little tinny or something,
Right.
whatever.
but
Yeah, that's very
so I
cool.
owned it up to that. But then it was like years later, I talked to
And we're talking years later.
right. Yeah. And so, yeah, but it was, how cool was that? I actually
Greg's the silver-
heard Greg call that game.
He's a silver-throated guy
Yeah.
of WSTU,
Yeah.
man. He is he's the
that-
man. So
that
that is really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And Greg recounted that story for our, all our MCBE members this morning,
Oh,
which was kind of
man.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I sent Ken my substitute, and he doesn't care anything about sports, so he
Oh.
didn't go into that stuff.
Yeah.
So thank God I got you, Frank. I got you, Frank.
Too funny. Too
Oh,
funny.
geez.
So,
Well, that's great. I mean, hey, folks, we've talked a lot about these are cool things from our past that you don't want to ever forget.
Well,
And
yeah, that's true. I know you got some things you want to touch on, and we got like a little over 5 minutes left, but one of the things I wanted to talk about during this morning's show program, and I want to touch on during the show, and I didn't get a chance to really touch on it this morning,
Okay.
only kind of peripherally. It was really about teamwork. That's why I did the baseball thing. It was all about teamwork. How are teams created, right? You, Griff, and Larry, because you guys all play sports, right? Can really talk about what goes into creating a team, right? I mean, from
I played on a lot of teams and
Right.
a lot of sports.
and
boy,
there's a creative element in how you put a team together. Professional sports uses an interesting method. Of course, they have scouts, right?
right.
There's the collegiate programs that they draft from, right? And there's the minor league, right? And where they hone those skills, right? And so the whole idea is to accomplish a goal, and the goal is to be the best, whatever it is your position is that you've chosen, right? And I think a lot of that information, it translates to our everyday business life. It really does. And I really didn't get a chance to touch on it because we kind of diverged off into just fantasy camp stuff,
Sure.
but which was fun. But I do want our listeners to know, and I want the MCBE members who are listening to the show to understand or to know that was really my top of mind whole purpose, was to talk about teamwork, pulling together, because like our WSTU team here is amazing, right? Because between Greg and Carol and Cliff and Veronica and the other talent that work behind and in front of the mics, they help me do what I do. I don't do it in a vacuum. It's not me. I'm just part of a team.
Right.
And so that is, I think, the big message there, that, the way things happen, they don't happen by accident. It's teamwork.
And you guys are kind of remote from each other. I mean, you're here, they're there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
every day is different.
Yeah.
You got to be ready for it, and
Yeah.
you got to talk. You got to, it has to be. It's the culture that really
Right.
is the thing. It's sometimes that word is overused, but something
Yeah.
that I learned a long time ago, and and you have a lot of diverse people down here in Florida, and that, I think, with the fact that you think about all the people in the MCBE group,
Right.
they're all quality people. They all have worked hard to have a good team.
Yeah.
And it's not like we right these days, everybody going down to get the guy off the draft or what, they're not there.
Yeah.
And we really got to do some searching. So helping each other,
Right.
and even any of our businesses out there. This is one of the things we had today in a discussion I was in about how can the business people help the community. I mean, you have to be careful what you say and do. I mean,
Mhm.
politically,
Mhm.
it's
And
not like,
professionally.
yes.
absolutely. Mhm.
So, and it's a small town, but I've had several people in the store in my business today, European Kitchen and Bath, who were, they're all in there supporting the local guy. And
So
I'm a big
important.
believer in that. I've made some changes, some other stuff I'm doing, but I got to practice what you preach. So,
Right.
very good, Frank. And teams, I played on a lot of basketball teams, learned
Mhm.
a lot about that. And baseball in particular can be an individual game. And of course, golf, that not that it was a joke, but boy, we sure had a great time together and cheering each other on. And golf in Michigan in the fall in high school, it was sure beat football because I could just hang out in the stands with the during the football games with all the girls while all my friends were down there beating their brains out.
That is great.
I'm a lot smarter than I look. But so we've got just a couple minutes left here. We'll take any phone calls if you want to finish us off at 220-9788. And
comments are always welcome, pro, con, and otherwise.
How much you love the Tigers. Were you the one who sent me the clip of Fidrich striking out the I think it was the Yankees in a game at I got to go back and find it and send it to you. Mark Fidrich, and he was playing the Yankees, and he struck the side out in the bottom of the ninth. And the tension, I must have watched it 5 times. It was so cool.
You can cut it with a knife.
I think it was this friend of mine who lives up outside of Detroit. He sent it to me.
Yeah, and ironically, Mark Fidrich is from New York.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was a farm boy. Yeah, Mark the Bird
great.
Fidrich. Yeah, talking to the baseball.
Well, Frank, we did it again. We talked our way through that hour, and I appreciate you listening to me, and I always enjoy listening to you. Thank you for your friendship. And
thank you, John. We appreciate you coming in.
We didn't get to talk about MCBE, but we'll do that next time.
We will. We will. Absolutely.
Okay, everybody have a great week. We wish a lot of safetiness for our friends up north, and we really have to put our thoughts and prayers right there. That's where they go.
Yeah. And if you guys have extra coin, send it to the Red Cross. They'll find a good place to use it.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Yes, they will. Okay, y'all. Take care and have a great week. We'll see you next week on the MCBE show.
Thank you.